I just thought, do you want to start the intros?
We're already going into it.
Well, we can just cut this. I know how to cut audio.
So this is will be a blooper that we'll keep going.
Yeah, because Matt and Sarah don't prepare any of this before we actually do these things. We just kind of make it up as we go, as we're adjusting the things. Anyways, we'll pause for
By the
five
way,
seconds.
Matt, I'm Konger and you're.
Mongo.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another session. That was kind of a crazy intro there, but we thought, well, let's just go with it. So I hope you are all caught up on our sessions. Maybe, maybe not. Matt, what do you think?
I'm hoping. I'm hoping they are caught up because we kind of introed what we're going to talk about here. We were just celebrating some of the new exams that we just passed, and we get quite a bit of commentary. Maybe not so much on our YouTube channel and the videos that we have, but with the students is like, how do you prepare for exam? And so, Sarah talked about three really good tools about doing things, measure up, and just going through the online course material. So we thought it'd be kind of cool to dig into some of those and what's important about those tools and how to actually prep with them. So, Sarah, why don't you go ahead and kick one off, pick one of those three, and go after it. And we'll just talk about that, and then we'll go after the next two before we're done recording this podcast.
Yeah, so the one thing that you always start with, right, is understanding, what are the concepts that you need to learn to pass an exam. If you go to any search tool, Bing, and type in AZ-104
You can,
exam
yeah, they can
or
Google
whatever.
that. They just have to use Bing.
No, no, it got to Bing it.
They Google it using Bing. That's how they Google it using Bing. Google's the verb. Come on now,
I was wondering if you caught me. The Bing.
the
So go
Bing.
to the Bing and then and then so type it in, and then what happens is you're looking for the result that comes with the exam information. When you click on that link, scroll down a little bit, and you'll see a little link embedded in that site for the skills. If you click on that, that'll open up a PDF file, and that PDF file will give you in bullet form all of the requirements to pass that exam. What I'd like to do, especially if this is a new exam I've never taken, like if I'm taking AZ 104 again, I very rarely will use that. But when I took SC 300, I downloaded that, and then every bullet, copy that bullet and put it into a Bing search, right? So literally paste it into Bing and search for it. And 9 times out of 10, it's going to come back with the learn module. And so then from there, you can read up on it. And I always recommend too that, yes, our learn modules are fantastic. Don't get me wrong. But also take that link or take that information and put it into YouTube and watch a video. So using different tools to learn the concepts first. So that's one of the things I would start with when prepping for an exam.
Yeah, and I think that's a really really important one. And there's actually, if you do a search on Thomas Maurer, and we'll drop a link, he actually does that on behalf, but he takes you, instead of the learn modules are very valuable, he takes you directly to the docs articles that reference that. And the important distinguish there is learn modules are really, really good, but at the end of every module, they're gonna have 3 or 4 articles for you to go read. The reason I mentioned the doc site, that's where the questions come from. They don't come from the learn modules. They don't come from the YouTube videos. They come from the docs. That's kind of like the single point of truth. So whenever you're going through to read things, learn modules help you concise it. And for me, I like, if I already know the area, I'll just kind of gloss through that learn module and then focus on the articles. But Thomas Maurer has done that PDF, but just for the docs articles. So it's blending those learning methodologies that are there. And so what I like to do and why I like to learn modules, and you and I talked about this the other day, and I don't know if we're going to have video yet, but you hear the rattling of my paper on my actual screen. That is my notes. And so whenever I take an exam, when I go through the learn modules, I actually just write down notes. For me, that's how I memorize. That's how I can remember things and I can recall them when I'm taking the exam. And it's one of the just things that works for me. It may or may not work for you. But for me, writing down after I read helps me, my retention go a lot. And there's a lot of studies that show how many times do we have to repeat things to understand them, Sarah?
Three different methods: reading, writing, doing,
Yep.
right? So
And
all
your
those three.
Yeah, your retention will be great. And that's the second one we talk about is labs. So how do you do your labs, Sarah?
Well, if you've never taken, people might say, well, don't I have to take the course to get to the labs? Little known fact, or might not be known, is you can actually go to GitHub. You guys heard of GitHub before? I'm sure you all have. So go to github.com, go into the search and type in the course code or the exam code it would be, right? So let's say you are doing SC300, do a search for SC300 and always look for the one that says Microsoft slash learning slash and then the course code. Click on that, and in there will be all the lab instructions for you to use. So those are the same labs that we'll use when we're teaching the courses. So all you need to do, create a free account, or first of all, create a Microsoft account. They're free. So go to account.microsoft.com or outlook.com, create a Microsoft account, then do a search for Azure free account, and set that up. The only gotcha with that is when you do the free account, you do need a credit card, right? Because it after your trial, it will turn into a paid subscription, right? Pay as you go subscription, so to speak. So yeah, so that's what I would do with the labs.
Yep.
Yeah,
Oh, and to be very clear, that pay as you go only is if you say I want to pay as you go.
right.
Otherwise, it will not turn automatically. So you can do that. I think also leveraging your MSDN subscriptions. If you happen to have one of those, you get a monthly credit for that. If you have one and or Visual Studio subscription, if you haven't activated your Azure credit, that's a great way to study as well. Fundamentally, you do need to have an Azure environment to work with it, and chances are, and I wouldn't even encourage you to do this. Don't look at your work environment. It's probably governed, and you probably won't be able to do everything you need to do for the labs. But we do publish all the instructions out for you to be as successful as you can. And even some of the Learn modules will have little sandboxes where you can get in to work through that. But yeah, you want to be careful with some of those labs. That's one way we can prep them is definitely through those lab instructions that are published. The other way we talk about is let's spend a few minutes talking about Measure Up and the other legitimate practice exams that are out there. So, Sarah, how do you use Measure Up?
Wait, there is more than Measure Up. Well, I guess there's Mind Hub, but they're the same, aren't they? Measure Up and Mind
I,
Hub, I think,
I
are the
thought
same.
Pluralsight had some as well. I had that.
Pluralsight, yeah, because we use Pluralsight here.
Yep.
Um, so Measure Up is your last study tool, and it is still a study tool because one of the things that's cool about Measure Up is always start it, and they'll see when you launch in an exam, it'll do practice mode or what was the other one? I don't know.
Actual mode, like certification mode and
Yes,
practice mode, I think are the two.
certification, I think you're right. Yeah,
Yep.
so go and launch the practice mode, and then from there there'll be an option where you can say a little drop down just before you hit start, where you can say let me ask for each answer or question. Basically what that means is that when you're going through the practice mode, you'll see at the top bar show answer, right? So obviously as you go through one question, you pick the answer that you think is right, click on show answer, and down, and if you scroll down, it'll tell you if you got it wrong and right. But here's the really good thing. If you got it wrong or right, either way, it's going to tell you why the other answers are wrong, right? So, and it also will provide links for you to study. So I use Measure Up for every single exam I've ever taken because it's an amazing study tool.
It is, and that's where I think there are two things. If you haven't taken a Microsoft exam in a long time, it kind of gives you the style of how the questions will be written,
Yeah.
of how we phrase things. They look and feel very similar, but they're not the exact same questions. You will not see questions in Measure Up that you'll see on your real exam. But as you go through that, it's whenever I go through it, because you can control how many questions you ask, and usually there's 120 to 100 to 200, maybe 150 questions per exam that Measure Up provides.
Hmm.
I go through the first time I go through the practice time, I have all of them. I say, show me all the questions that are there. And there's some questions that are similar that are same concepts. And I just go through them because I want to see everything. And whenever I get something wrong, I just click on the doc articles to say what's there. And so usually when I'm done, I have an Edge browser with about, 1,500
Yeah,
tabs opened up, right,
exactly.
that are for me to go back and refer. But it takes me a good part of a day to go through just one round through that. But this is the one thing I would caution you. And so Sarah, I'll ask you this question: how many times have you heard from a student, "Man, I was killing the Measure Up, and I barely passed the exam," or I wasn't successful on the exam? How many times have you heard that? And they were getting thousands on the Measure Up.
Not very often, actually. Do
Really?
you hear that a
Oh,
lot? No, I
if I had a
usually
dime, I'd be retired and living in Canada. That's where I'd be retired to. And
no,
which
no. One
No, yeah, I've heard that a lot because I think what a lot of people
really.
yeah, because I think people forget when you go through that first time, it's going to take you better half the day. When I go through the second time, it takes me a couple hours. By the third or fourth time I'm going through that practice exam on all those questions, We're talking half hour to an
You know
hour at
what?
most because your brain remembers the questions. As long as you know why you're clicking answer two and the reason behind
Right.
clicking answer two, you'll be successful. If you're just
Exactly.
clicking two because you know question five's answer is two, you're setting yourself up to for I would false positive or false safe security that's there, right?
That's what I was just going to say. The people that are probably failing the exam after going through the measure up and passing the measure up is they're doing memorization.
Yeah.
The exam, you'll never pass an exam on memorization, not anymore. Back in the 90s you could. You have to understand why that was the answer, because then we'll give you a question that's totally reworded, and then you'll be like, oh, I think it's that one, but maybe it wasn't. Could have been one or two words that
Mm.
threw it off to be the other answer. That's why I love taking exams. Total sarcasm.
Yeah, they're yeah. We both hate both. Sarah and I have confessed our
Exams.
dislike and displeasure with our exams. I just want to say one last thing as we close this out. Sarah and I are both aware of this. Even Microsoft and our friend Liberty Munson is wildly aware of this. We know there are brain dump sites that are out there. I've seen the brain dump sites. I actually had a student in my class say, "Hey,
Terrible.
Matt, how would you answer this question?" And it was from a brain dump site, and it was from an exam I took, and it was a question I remember on my actual exam. The thing about that is study, folks. If you study for the exams, you're going to pass them. If you take those exams, you're setting yourself up for failure in the real world. More importantly, 9 times out of 10, when you go to the sites that are brain dumps, you're going to get infected with something, malware, adware, something. And two, they're going to tell you that this answer is the right answer. And in reality, it probably is the wrong answer. So just stay away
Yeah.
from them. I promise you, if you study the exam using the three methods that Sarah mentioned, doing things, reading things, watching videos, or listening to things, you're going to be wildly successful on our exams. They're not hard, but you got to study for them. And if you're prepared, you're going to be successful. And we can provide lots of resources for that. So we're available to you. So if you're looking to pass an exam, let us know what you're studying for. Maybe we'll throw some comments in, some good resources that Sarah and I think, even though as much as we like them, we're professional exam takers, right? Any mention
Oh
on the
God, yeah.
the brain dump sites because they just scare the heck out of me.
Well, the other thing too is that, like you said, you're not doing yourself any favors. Yeah, maybe you're being forced to take an exam for work, but if you're taking exams because you want to excel in your career, and then you're using these sites, I guarantee you the first interviewer that you're going to get, they're going to be like, oh, yeah, this person has no idea what they're talking about. You really need to understand things. And the other thing that I really, really stress to my students and learners when I'm teaching is always ask why, right? Why would I use application gateway? Why do we use express route? When you know the answers to the whys, you're way ahead, right? It is really what it's all about.
Yeah, and then, well, I think what our friend Bob always says, "So what?" Well, we can use conditional access to do this. So what? If you can
So
answer
what?
those
Yeah.
questions, yeah, as you go through them, it's great. And I was joking with Sarah the other day. I had an exam where you have to know where those things are to configure them, and I couldn't remember where it was. I was sitting in with my exam. I knew it was one of two places to find it. Had I had the portal in front of me, I would have gotten it right. I think I did get the question wrong though when I went back in hindsight. But to learn how to do those things, and I think I promise you're going to be successful with these exams. They're designed for you to be successful. You just got to study.
And
So,
do us a favor when put in in the comments your study tips, right?
yep.
Let's all help out each other, and let us know what you do to help you study, because there's so many little tricks out there. I used to use rhymes, right? People do not throw sausage pizza away. Does anyone know what that is?
That's the 7 layers of the OSI model,
Yeah,
correct?
right. And
Hey, look
that's a
at
sure, that's a bit of memorization, but sometimes you have to do that. So let us know how you study and what are the tips that you use.
Awesome. Well, hopefully you found this useful. If you did, just hit subscribe. Let us know what else you want to see from us. We'll probably do a video on just exam taking tactics. I think we'll focus on some of that in one of our next podcasts. So with that, good happy examining and good luck. And have what do you say? Happy examining? I don't know. I feel like I'm
I'm
lying to
sitting
them
here
all.
with my shaking my head, going, "What? Who says?" You just say good luck. Just say good luck.
Good luck. Good luck. Good luck.
All right, take care.